Well, it's fantastic to be joined by Beth Ann. Beth Ann, thanks very much for joining us. You're the CEO of Brand and Marketing for the Americas for Kantar Consulting. And not only that, the major architect of stream commerce here in Miami. When you were contemplating the idea of stream commerce, what were the major drivers in terms of the sorts of things that were important to cover?
Well, first of all, I'm not the major architect. I'll take some credit, but not all that credit. There's been an incredible team with us here. I think the biggest one was that we're watching and witnessing this incredible time in commerce, and we're seeing the transition happen and transformation that's taking place in all of our worlds. And we wanted to elevate the conversation in a way that was not just about the block and tackle, even though we've had a lot of that conversation in ways that are incredibly strategic actually on stage as well. But we wanted to make sure we were covering commerce from all its different angles, and also bringing in our great partners and our clients and the WPP agencies around that conversation in ways that we actually never have taken part before. And then there's so much in the stream commerce, the stream design itself, from a conference design standpoint, that we wanted to bring into this, that we just knew would create a different kind of bond and experience and engagement strategy that I don't think we've had in former retail events before.
Now, it's incredible to think, given the amount of calls that we've had, planning calls that we've had, strategy calls we've had, that we're almost now at the end of the 2019 stream commerce. Having been in all the sessions, what are your key takeouts of some of the key things that have been discussed, or ideas that have come out, or weird and wonderful things you say, oh my gosh, I really need to go back and think slightly more deeply about that?
Well, starting from the point of architecting, actually, sometimes it's very hard to design the content in a way that really does create story and flow and narrative throughout. And interestingly, it's the maybe serendipity of these things sometimes, how it actually happens. And I feel like we have had sort of a narrative arc. And we started yesterday with hearing from Google and Amazon and really big minds in the space that are very proud actually about the roles that they're playing in elevating commerce and enhancing the tools that our brands get to use and we as agencies are creatively working with today. And then taking that into some of the other platforms, and retailers are becoming platforms themselves, like a Kroger, yes, that were incredible on stage. And then having side by side oftentimes the manufacturer, the brand, the retailer, and then some of the bigger ecosystem clients there as well. Just hearing kind of that merging of ideas and thinking was incredible.
And it's quite interesting actually, because all the technologies seem to be merging together, and actually all the ecosystem players are also merging together now.
Right. And I guess it goes back to this idea of sort of co-opetition as well too, because there's sometimes where there's competitive lines. We actually even had a private label company and a brand company sitting right next to each other, teasing out those challenges. But you really get to understand from unique perspectives what people are facing today. I also thought, we have big brains in that room, like Jay Walker-Smith and Brian Gildenberg, and people that you just can't have a conference like this without hearing from them. But they've done such a good job, I think, of synthesizing some of the really big themes that we're seeing right now. And then, of course, you and John, from a China standpoint, we all have to be paying attention to China. And I think your key point there too around speed, and you can't discount or also write off any player right now that that has the tools around speed and are going to use that as a differentiator and a way of entering the game that may not even be there today. And then all the way through to like a Tastemade that is, just again, a small, very kind of disruptive player, but they're showing that by owning kind of that full ecosystem of data, then they're able to become a content commerce partner. They're launching new products themselves. They're innovating with their clients. They're squarely in the commerce space.
I thought it was really interesting of some of those smaller players and the vision that they have. They might be small, but they're certainly not small in their thinking, and they're certainly not small in terms of their thought process about who they need to partner with in order to grow a better proposition, be more successful for their customers, and also grow the business fast.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention data and insights, given the world that I live in. But it is incredible right now to see, again, the real-time level of data and insights that we have and that are being actionable. And one of the things that we talked about earlier was the life cycle that used to be retail executions. And even in the real world, that is being shortened. But then the ability to have digital tools and to do things that are almost acting in real time, and you have kind of new studio partners that you get to work with on the digital side of the house that are really challenging us to be very content relevant and put the consumer at the heart of our expressions.
Now, I think you're in a very privileged position in a sense because you're speaking with very, very senior clients who are running very large companies around the world. From that perspective, what are you seeing about the things that are exercising their minds at the moment?
Well, I'll tie something in that's about to release in March that we're all working on at WPP, but Kantar Consulting's been the sponsor of, and I've personally been involved in many of the conversations and interviews, which is the Initiative for Real Growth. So I've been speaking to CMOs over the last several months about growth for them, and one of the expressions that we have, growth from uncomfortable places, and it really is just that. So we could celebrate the last day and a half of hearing incredible stories, but the reality is, for a lot of those companies, they aren't growing the way they used to, and we talked about it even with China, of course, it's all relative, that level of slowdown. And I think the keys that we're seeing in terms of growth is defining that from a sustainable standpoint, on multidimensional. There's so much that brands and companies need to be doing today to be achieving that sustainable growth. It's everything from the harder to make tangible sometimes, the fit for purpose and being very purpose driven. That it's got a huge talent component to that. I think talent is going to be a difference maker, that we're already seeing that thematic come up. But then on the other side of that automation point and speed to market, looking at new growth models and recognizing that some of the traditional models, even if you're a big company like a Unilever, doesn't work anymore for your business. So figuring out how to really experiment with new models. And one of the themes that came out of today too, which is that kind of direct to consumer, even if it's not in the beginning a main channel of growth, what that does enable in terms of your organizational ownership of data and understanding about the consumer, that then can be defining for other areas of the business and how you go forward.
Well, all those topics, in a sense, have been discussed in one form or another in Stream Commerce in 2019. I'm sure that Stream Commerce 2020, amazing, 2020, will pick up and develop those themes. But for the moment, Beth Ann, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thanks for putting on an amazing Stream Commerce 2019.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be part of it.